This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. It is your host, Robbie, joined by Snail on the other end of the line, as always, here for another recap segment, it being the evening of Tuesday, January 14th, here in 2025. The Penguins just wrapped up a contest with the Seattle Kraken in Pittsburgh, and the game, it was a 4-2 loss for the Penguins, a bad 4-2 loss for the Penguins, unfortunately. And Snail, I'm about ready now to call time of death on this Penguins season. You needed something out of this homestand, and you got very little. Now you go on a long, long road trip through some teams in the East, but mostly heading out west. And it's a team now that it looks like the well has run dry. The goaltending situation, I think it's safe to say, is simply not good enough to get them into the playoffs. As much as other parts of the team are working, are fighting, I just think there's too many holes on this team, especially in net, to get this team to a place of making the playoffs come April.
Yeah, a game like tonight, Robbie, it's like any hopes of, like, forget even playoffs, but just hanging around this competition, this tight race, you might call it, in the Metro with, or let's just say the East, with the Red Wings and the Senators, and then you've got the Penguins, the Blue Jackets, the Rangers are starting to win some games. Like, screw playoffs, just being competitive until the end of the season. Whether we had them not making playoffs this year at the beginning of the season, even if the year was fortuitous, going better than it is right now. But they just had a homestand. They get 2 points out of the homestand.
Let me check
if that
the schedule. They have 3 points. They had the overtime loss,
the
shootout loss to Columbus, a game they should have gotten 2 points out of that they blew in the third period.
Of all people, they beat Edmonton outright.
Yeah, they beat Edmonton outright. And after that game, I think everybody was feeling really good after that game against Edmonton. And then they go off and they lose 3 straight, getting outscored 14-4 in the process. Seattle's not a good hockey team. No, they're bad. They're
they're at the bottom of the Pacific.
Yeah, they're a bad hockey team. And the Penguins, if you needed to beat this team, and you fell completely flat. We thought for a second that Seattle scored on their first shot of the game. It was thankfully their whole second shot of the game went in, and they didn't record their third shot until about 5 minutes into the second period. They're not a good hockey team. The Penguins, to their credit, Phil Tomasino back in the goal column with a goal to tie it up. Brian Rust is just doing what Brian Rust does. But this is a bad hockey team. I don't really think that there's any other way to put it. They are not good. The goaltending is, I mean, we can't sit here every night and just say it is. It's just, we just host. I would just put out the same episode. After every game if I could, because we talk about the same things all the time. The goaltending is abhorrent. It is a absolute disaster. At this point, I don't know if it's complete negligence. I think if you run Jari out there again at any point, unless you really, really take a look at what all your options are, because it's not working. He's bad. He's absolutely dreadful, especially when there are, I think, undoubtedly, or at least non-debatably, better goaltenders in the system to at least try. Even if it's not Joel Blomqvist, Philip Larson, who has been playing very good in the AHL, I think needs to be up here by the time they hit the ice on Friday night in Buffalo. Is it going to happen? I have my reservations that they're going to actually do anything, which is really disappointing. And as much as we kind of understand what the process is with where the Penguins are now, if Jim Rutherford was still the general manager of this team, I think that there would be serious discussions about the future right now, the immediate future of Tristan Jarry in Pittsburgh, and that's not to say that he wouldn't make any other moves as well, but a move to get a forward is not addressing the major issues with this team. Even a defenseman is not necessarily right now addressing the major issues with this team. The major issues with this team are strictly in net. Yeah, they have defensive breakdowns that lead to goals, but you're just not getting saves at all when you need them. And I'm tired of it. I think we all are. And it's just wash, rinse, repeat every time we sit down after these games. Even in games where they win, it feels like we're talking about a bad goal that was given up at some point in the game, usually within like the first five shots. But it's frustrating. The Penguins, I just don't see them. At the end of the day, they don't have the goaltending to keep them, like you said, even competitive in the playoff race long term. And yeah, unless something changes there, it's going to be a very, very long 35 games or whatever's left.
Yeah, Robbie, and you said it, man. It's, I think we have, as Penguins fans, as guys who watch basically every game, I think it's been easy for us to kind of come to this conclusion and understand Dubas's vision with personnel. They're getting younger on the fly. It's a retooling. If they think that the management has come out and said that they think that this team should be capable of making the playoffs. I think there's moments where I think that this youth that's pushing through can sometimes bring what the Penguins have needed for years now. But let's be honest with ourselves. You're getting not just subpar goaltending. You're basically getting no goaltending whatsoever.
You're getting. I mean, this goaltending would not be acceptable in the minors. Like, this is below minor league level goaltending. Like, I've watched a lot of hockey. I've watched junior hockey. I've watched minor league hockey, and this is some of the worst goal. It's the least confident I've ever been in a goaltender. I just don't expect to save.
Yeah, no confidence. I mean, and if you and I feel this way, how does Sidney Crosby, Russ, and Raquel go out there and just put their work boots on and give it 100% shift after shift after shift? Sid's getting into it again. I hate seeing that, where he's the guy sticking up for himself, sticking up for the team. I mean, where's Nieto? What's Achari? What are these depth guys doing? I don't know. There's a lot. Like, look, I get it. The defense is suspect at best at times, even with a guy like Erik Karlsson. Chris Letang is not. I feel like over the past few years, I've been pretty critical of Chris Letang at times. I've probably put my hand up multiple times saying, it's awesome, the story. I get it. Them staying together. He means so much to Pittsburgh. He's meant so much to me as a fan over the years, but the defense is going to have its blunders, and you don't have the goaltending. Even when it was better, they hadn't made the playoffs in a couple of years. Pierre-Olivier Joseph, yeah, he can skate. He's in the NHL on a good team. Pierre-Olivier Joseph isn't in the NHL. He's probably your 7, and he's playing how many? He's probably playing second pairing minutes at this point, right? Like,
yeah, he's got to be in there somewhere. And he played. Let's see here, real quick. He was.
I guess I have his minutes up here.
15 minutes tonight. I mean, that was third pairing tonight.
That's third pairing minutes. So
him and Pickering were on the third pairing. Everybody else was above 20. But yeah, I mean, it's wash, rinse, repeat every night after every game. Same conversation about the same guys, the same issues, the same results. Man, it just speaks to the level of professionalism these guys have, that they aren't just like snapping sticks or just glaring at Jari. I mean, I don't know how they keep that all together. I guess being paid oodles and oodles of money probably helps,
I'm
but
sure that softens the blow.
there's still a competitive drive for these guys, and it has to drive them crazy. And I feel bad for them. The guys that are out there giving the 100% effort, Rust, Raquel, Crosby, Malkin had a pretty good game. Even Carlson was pretty good tonight. It just has to drive you absolutely crazy as a guy like that. Again, you have to give the canned answers in interviews and stuff like that, but man, it would drive me crazy. I know fans, yeah, obviously you have a leeway as a fan to say whatever you want, because we don't have to go and show up and work with these guys night in and night out. But man, it has to drive these guys crazy at some point. Like, they have to go home and just grab their pillow and just yell like right into their pillow for just hours until they fall asleep.
Well, Robbie, how many times have I brought this up with you and on these shows before the season even started, that we have to start accepting that the Penguins are in a place where they need to start giving leashes to these young players to develop them and to grow. If Sullivan's going to be the guy, they need to be able to be afforded to make mistakes. But this isn't a teardown. This isn't a rebuild where you can go stretches of a lot of games and basically these young guys will have the leash to make all of these mistakes and blunders in the defensive zone, bad penalties, this, that, and the other. This is a retool on the fly. I feel like it's on management to recognize, if you're going to give these guys if you're going to give these guys this leash and this room to kind of grow, you got to have some goaltending. You know what I mean? And and to your point that you were making earlier that I wanted to chime in on about, the professionalism of these guys. It's just got to be so tough if you're Mike Sullivan. And yeah, Achari turns over the puck to the wrong guy against Tampa Bay, right? He turns it over, and Nikita Kucherov, probably one of the best players on the planet right now. That he's a veteran, that's a mistake. Achari's a professional, though. He owned it. It's not, I don't think he was being lazy or anything like that. I think it was just, it's a fast sport. It's a quick game. How do you rip into a guy like Achari for that, tear a strip off of him, or make him watch a video of that, when you've got a goaltender that lets in the first shot on net? Usually it blows by him of the game. Like, how, or if it's not the first, it's the second. If it's not the second, it's the third. If it's not the third, it's the fifth. And when you need it the most, if God forbid there's an area of the game where you could really use a save, it's typically not there. If you're Mike Sullivan, how do you tear into your team when you're like, well, my guys can't afford to make any mistakes right now because their goaltender can't backstop anything. They can't stop a beach ball.
Yeah, obviously you can't just go out there and be like, oh yeah, our goaltending. Like, I don't know. Again, there's maybe like two coaches that I can think of off the top of my head that can get away with saying it. It's John Tortorella. Could obviously, and probably has. He's tried to fight like dudes in the hallway.
Yes.
I could see Bruce Boudreau saying it. Because it's a personality thing. Just like off the top of my head, just like rolling through names real quick, there's just nobody I can really think of. Again, you have to be a coach with a pedigree to say it. You can't be like a rookie coach walking in there and being like, played great tonight, goalies let us down. When he the other night said, when they asked him about Jari's performance against, I forget who that was, even not the Columbus game, they asked him, he's like, I still think he has something to give. He has more to give or something like that. And like people were like, whoa, that's like, even that was like,
it made headlines. They're like, Sullivan chimes in on Chari's performance, and that's putting it lightly. Robbie, if I was in that locker room, if I was a coach, I know you've got a level of professionalism and you've got a job to do, but there are games where when you're trying to put the best roster you can out there and you're trying to stay in this godforsaken wild card hunt. There's
Yeah.
maybe only one wild card spot available. There's about 5 teams vying for it. If that's your job, is to coach this team to stay competitive in that, and you see a puck blow by Jar, you see Jamie Oleksiak come down the wing and score like he's Raymond Bourque. I mean, you would have to say at minimum you've got to have that.
Yeah.
But there are times too where it's the personnel too, Robbie. Like the Seattle Kraken are softer than puppy shit. This team, I mean, I get disgusted at Penguins games sometimes for the lack of jam that they have, and that the personnel showing up and playing physical. I don't know if they forget sometimes, but Robbie, this is the game of hockey. It's a
Yeah.
prideful game. It's a physical contact sport. And I look at the guys on this roster and I'm saying none of you guys can provide that for me without taking a stupid penalty. None of you guys know how to time good hits. None of you guys can hit in the open ice. None of you guys can strip pucks, hold on to pucks down deep, down low behind the net. Good plays along the wall. That's not fighting, Robbie. That's just being physical in a sport where you need it to stay competitive and be good. The Penguins have disgusted me at times. If you want to talk about another team that has personnel and is softer than puppy shit, it's the Seattle Kraken, and they're in my backyard. I cannot stand that team at times. And the Penguins were bullying them at moments tonight. I mean, Riker Evans is a highly touted prospect for the Seattle Kraken who's been getting some NHL. He's been getting more and more minutes and trust under Bylsma. He'd been to 2 Calder Cups with Bylsma down in Coachella Valley. Shane Wright, coveted first overall pick, dropping down to 4. He's in Seattle. He's been seasoning in the minors. Those guys were not. Matty Beniers has fallen off of a cliff. You're trying to tell me that the Pittsburgh Penguins, Jared McCann's going to score on you. Jared McCann, maybe not on the second shot of the game. He can score. He's proven he can score. He's got bite. He's got jam. Jamie Oleksiak being the one to break this game open, that's ridiculous to me. That is unacceptable. You don't have the personnel on your team. Jamie Oleksiak could not stay on the Pittsburgh Penguins roster. He couldn't stay on a good Dallas team. He's on a bad Kraken team. You're telling me that the 6th defensemen on the Kraken are the ones that crack this game wide open, and it's the game. It's essentially the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's unacceptable to me, Robbie. Like, for real. I cannot. When I saw that, and I have buddies texting me, they're at the bar tonight, and they say, "Oh, look who's on the TV." And I'm getting texts from people asking about how the season's going, and talking about the Kraken, asking if Sidney Crosby's still in the league. And oh my God, after getting those and then seeing seeing the personnel that defeats the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight, it makes me sick to my stomach, Robbie. I cannot stomach that crap at all.
Yeah. 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 Just a bunch of quit. From
a bunch of quit.
Yeah. And this is that's nothing against the guys that are out there giving 100, 110% every night. It's unfair to them. It's unfair to the fans. And you're just going to see people just pack it in. The attendance tonight was still over 16,000, which is a really good number for.
Wasn't it isn't there a snowstorm out there keeping you guys home?
The weather is not good in Pittsburgh tonight, and you still had 16 plus thousand show up. That number could get really bad by the time they get back home in February. A lot of hockey to be played yet, but I have no confidence in getting enough quality goaltending to get them anywhere close to a playoff spot, like even being competitive. We just kind of slid back into the what's the best we can do in the draft lottery kind of situation. Just an absolutely atrocious homestand, coming off an atrocious shootout loss to the Hurricanes that they should have won, and then the game against Columbus. Maybe that should have been the warning sign of it all. Just a complete collapse in that third period, and then they go and do what they do against the Oilers. But maybe that's one of those a bad team beats a good team kind of night. Those happen in the NHL. They're still pros on both sides. Those games happen. But after that, since then, complete dog water for 3 straight games, outscored 14-4 in 3 games. And those numbers just averaging out, you're not going to beat anyone. I mean, you're just not going to
No,
beat teams.
not when you have teams that are actually hungry for those points. Not when a team like Ottawa, who's lost 4 and they're still hanging around that race with the personnel that they have and the pride on that team. I mean, you're not going to beat hungry teams, especially when you've got, you know, you've got a bomb waiting to detonate inside that locker room or on the bench every game with a goaltender who's going to let in a soft one and just take the air right out of you. I don't know. It's not good right now. And we talked about it. God, it must have been maybe a couple weeks ago at this point. And it was the point being, there's no, God, what am I trying to say? There is no lifeboat being thrown to you this year.
Mm-hmm.
There is no veteran free agent that is going to be, the Penguins aren't in that position. Dubas isn't going to go out and spend an asset of some sort to bring in some sort of bona fide help. He's plucked some strings here and there, and it's gotten some responses out of the Penguins. We can all reference the Tomasino trade right around Thanksgiving, and they went on a run. But I just don't see, there is no move. There is no life vest. That's what I was trying to say. There's no life vest out there for this team to kind of hope to save them. It's within the room. And we've talked about it too, Robbie. It's in the minors, I think, right now. I was going to pull up a couple of stats. I guess the game on Saturdays, there's some issue in Ottawa. They're not playing the rescheduled game. Let's see here. And I'm going to hammer this point at least a couple of more times, especially if the Penguins begin to slide. I'm going to be really, really curious to see who they bring on this road trip. If we hear of anybody maybe coming along with them on the trip from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Tristan Brose has played 27 games. He's got 12 goals and 7 assists for 19 points. He's on the power play down there. You're telling me a guy like Tristan Brose doesn't deserve to get a shot and jolt this team a little bit? I think they could use a little jolt. Let's see here. Emil Bemstrom, who saw time last year. I brought this up on the podcast last time we talked. 15 goals, 17 assists for 32 points. He's over a point a game in the AHL. Are you telling me that guy can't do what Noel Achari's doing, but bringing a little bit more? I don't know. I guess I must be a moron for thinking that, because Achari continues to see ice every single night.
Yeah.
Ville Koivunen and Vasily Ponomarev, your favorite name to say.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys they're on a bit of a tear right now. I believe Koivunen just had a hat trick. I don't know, Robbie. I just think that there's a jolt, there's some energy, there's some life, there's some skill with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and seasoning down there, I'm all about it. I think they've had their chance to season. Rutger McGroarty, go ahead and keep them down there, give them a bigger role. The Penguins have some guys that I think are a bit of a passenger right now on this team, and this hunt could get away from the Penguins quick. Like you said, they're going out west, they're going on a road trip. They could come back near the bottom of the division if this play continues.
Mm-hmm.
Do you trust the goaltending to keep them in this?
No, I don't trust the goaltending to stop the first shot of the game, let alone keep them in enough games to be competitive down the stretch here. I mean, the stretch coming up isn't brutal. The West Coast teams are not great. Buffalo is Buffalo. You never know what you're going to get out of Buffalo. Washington, I just hope Ovechkin doesn't score all 25 or whatever goals he needs on Saturday night to break the record. The Kings, obviously the Kings, we know the Kings are good. But Anaheim, Seattle, and San Jose, any half-competent team that wants to make the playoffs should be able to take 4 or 5 points out of those 6. And then Utah, these are winnable hockey games, but I have no idea if the defense is even, or the goaltending is even competent enough to make them even competitive in those games.
Because the offense is going to show up. They can score goals. They can get on the board rather quickly. Now, they have some depth scoring some games. The big guys are going to show up and at least give effort and maybe get an assist or something. But the defense is going to contribute. The defense is going to probably have a couple breakdowns. It's going to lead to we understand that, but yeah, I don't I on this trip. I just if I was the coach, if I was the GM, I would call Tristan Jarry into my office and I would say, don't even worry about packing your bags for this trip because we're bringing Ned, but I'm bringing two guys in the AHL on this trip with me, and actually you're going to go to the AHL and you're going to keep that team afloat and see what you can do down there. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, dude, it's just bad, man. It's just real bad, and I really don't know what else to really say. They're bad. They're a bad. They're just. They have good parts, but unfortunately, the bad parts are the most important parts, and it's just not going to be sustainable long term to be competitive.
I wanted to talk about Gino a little bit. I think Gino is still like a very talented player, and I think that he gets snubbed all the time. But I think we got to start really looking at Gino this year. As this might be kind of the last year that he's got any much game. He's just not effective. Like he kind of had a decent little start to the season. There are games that he looks like he's got some jump and he's got his legs going and he's out there doing Gino things, but man, I worry about that guy a little bit. He's your number one center. It's a lot of minutes, but it's empty calories. I mean, he doesn't get a lot done on the ice anymore. And it's tough to break up that first line, but I think when we had Gino and Sid on the same line, there was a little bit of magic there. They can still play together. They've still got amazing chemistry. I'm worried about the spread of depth. I'm worried about Gino keeping up this season and obviously more past this season, but I'm worried about the spread of depth. I'm worried about the center depth of this team. Where are you at with the center depth? I mean, do you feel like Gino's? Is it just me, or do you feel like there's been a bit of a dip in Gino's game this season, like a kind of an immediate drop off once you got kind of past?
Yeah, I mean, he's not young. I mean, you have to kind of take that into consideration. He's not the guy that even signed that contract 3.5 years ago now. So, yeah, I just don't really know what to kind of expect out of him at this point. I thought he played pretty decent tonight. Yeah, the talent is still like it still shows up. I just don't know if the body's there anymore. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean,
I feel like you can see he's still like he's got like the muscle memory to like dangle and do his east-west stuff and get, chugging through the zone, but like it's just like the body isn't just as it's just not as dominant and quick as it used to be, and that's expected. But I don't know, these last few games you look for a late goal or something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Gino's been injured, but even before that, it's just he's not really, especially like when you pull the goaltender or something and you've got the extra skater on and it's Gino. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know, I get a little concerned, but
yeah, his threat is not there like it was at
yes,
one
good,
point.
well put.
And yeah, that's unfortunate. That's terribly unfortunate, and that is kind of what it is, though. I mean, yeah, it's just sometimes it's time. Father Time is undefeated. Crosby, it's especially when you compare it to Crosby and the level he still plays at, you can definitely see the difference between with Malkin there, unfortunately. But no, yeah, it's sad, and we knew we were getting to the end anyway. It would be nice if he could go out still at least at a productive level. But hey, yeah, we'll take that one game at a time. Malkin, yeah, he might not be the old Malkin, but he's far from their biggest issue. That is
No,
for certain.
No, he's
yeah.
Tonight I was looking for a little more from him.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
It just wasn't there. So Robbie, break down for us what do we got to look forward to? What is coming up on the sched for the Penguins?
What's
Because
coming
I
up on
know
the
that
schedule?
they
Yeah,
got a
they
couple
are.
days off, I think.
Yeah, they're off Wednesday and Thursday, and then they're in Buffalo on Friday to start a 7-game road trip. It is a back-to-back with Friday and Saturday. So they start in Buffalo, and then they travel to Washington on Saturday, and then it is out to California, uh, Seattle, Utah, the whole Western United States kind of swing to um, wrap up January. It's a 7-game road trip in total, longest of the season. They are done playing home games in the month of January. They will not return home until February 1st. But yeah, a tough stretch. Road trips are always tough. You're tired by the end. Time zone differences. It starts with a back to back. You got to fly cross country. So
Buckle up.
buckle up. It's going to be a long couple weeks.
There's an opportunity here for them. There's
always an opportunity. It just
they could go have a ton of beers and look each other in the eyes and be like, I mean, maybe they don't. I don't know. There's a chance for them to rally and come back, and they have a mission. Take it just period at a time, game at a time. Sometimes you look at 5-game segments at a time. Try to have this record by the end of it. I don't know. There's a chance for them to really go out and grab some points here and come back in a decent spot. Hopefully not a worse spot than where you're leaving off at. But is the faith there? I don't know. For me, no. The goaltending is going to let you down night after night like it has.
Yeah, the faith. It's tough right now. They're in a tough position.
Do we not talk about anymore the fact that like a few years ago it came out that Jari has like an injury that will never get better and he's going to have to deal with it the rest of his career? Is that just been swept under the rug and is no longer referenced anymore? Like, because I never forgot that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I don't really remember it. I just think he's bad. So
sometimes it looks like he just can't get side to side really.
I know he had that injury a couple years ago. But if that is what is the issue, I mean, if that is legit an issue, they need to Marian Hossa him as soon as possible.
Robidas Island.
Yeah, just Marian Hossa him, Robidas him as soon as possible because that solves a big problem without doing too much work on Kyle Dubas' end. So
I just wondered, that was a real thing? That wasn't just clickbait. That was a thing that he's got this thing that he'll have to just kind of live with. And
yeah, that was like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. That was like,
did Dubas forget that?
I think it was before he signed that big deal too.
It was before they signed the ticket.
I think it was like, yeah, he had this injury, but it's easy to manage or something like that. And maybe he's just bad. Like, I mean, the injury might not have anything to do with it. He might just be bad.
We were begging for Jari to play against the Rangers in 2021. We were begging him to get back from injury. He had a broken foot, and we were praying that he could just wrap that foot up good enough that he could play at 90%, 85% against the Rangers. And we all know how that ended, and he's been a gas can ever since. So,
yeah,
I don't know, Robbie. I've definitely cleansed my soul a bit and gotten what I need to get off my chest out there to the listeners. Just a super bummer loss. I don't know how else to say it. It was inexcusable, I think. Just a bummer. But the Penguins have a chance to rest up and do some soul searching and hit the road, and they've got opportunity. It's not over for them yet, which almost makes it more painful.
You want to hear something really messed up before we wrap this up?
Give it to
me. It just popped up on my Twitter feed from Jennifer Barrasso of KDKA News in Pittsburgh. Penguins assistant captain Evgeny Malkin's home was the target of a break-in. Sources tell me the Penguin superstar's 3 Stanley Cup rings are missing.
Dude, fuck that.
So, yeah. Again, something to keep an eye on these next few days. But I know that athletes have been recently warned that they could be the targets of break-ins. It's happened kind of across the country and across the world, really. So hopefully that all resolves itself. But if this story does pan out to be true, hopefully they catch the perpetrator and they retrieve the cup rings because, Malkin's an emotional player. So hope that he handles this, the team handles this, and everybody's safe and they can.
Malkin's house in Pittsburgh was broken into, or is this the one in Florida?
It was reported by a Pittsburgh reporter, so I'm going to assume it's his house in Pittsburgh. But yeah,
doesn't he have like a massive like alien statue in his backyard? Have you seen that?
No, I've not.
Oh, anyways, that's horrible. Jesus, if they catch that guy, I don't know. I hope that they catch whoever that is because that's bullshit, and that's the last thing that Gino needs to be dealing with right now.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Can you get those insured? Can you get those rings like insured?
I'm sure they're. Yes, I'm very sure they're. Insured,
and you could you get them made again if you needed to?
You probably could. Yeah.
I'm sure they would. Anyways, that's horrible. Well, that just caps off an even worse night. If I'm Gino, I'm snapping a twig over Jari's head and being like, "Thanks a lot."
Yeah. Blame that on Jari too. But so Penguins losers 4-2 to the Seattle Kraken, back to back on Friday and Saturday with Buffalo and Washington. As our standard back to back procedure, we'll probably just record on Saturday evening after that game against the Washington Capitals. Just to keep it a 2-for-1 for you guys. And then next week, being that they are out west, maybe some mailbags, some later recaps. We'll figure out some content to get out there while the Penguins are on the west coast of the United States. So, Snell, do you have anything before we wrap this up?
I just saw a thing come across my Reddit notifications. Jari, I swear to Christ, I want to stick a pencil in my neck watching you wreck games.
Yeah, I mean, same.
Yeah, I don't even think it's Whipping Boy at this point. He's just
no, we're long past Whipping Boy.
Yeah, I could find a Whipping Boy for you.
We are straight up finger pointing.
Yeah. Robbie, no, I got nothing left, man. So right. we'll chat Saturday. We'll be back Saturday to wrap. And it feels like you said you said you're ready to kind of you're close.
Yeah, I think I'll make a final determination after this road trip. But yeah, I'm just very, very pessimistic right now.
I'm not as close as you are. I don't think. I'm a little bit more optimistic, I think, but not by a whole lot because I know that they've got what if they start reaching into their bag in the AHL and it's the same kind of deal, then I'll be ready. But I just think that there's still some strings management can pull. I'm not even giving up hope on a new coach bump this late in the season. I'm just going to put that out there. There's always a break glass in case of emergency a coach firing. Yeah. But that's all I got, Robbie. Let's get the hell out of here.
That does it for this episode. We will be back this weekend, as we said. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay warm, and have a good rest of your week.